Welcome to Coaching for Coaches, everybody. My name is Phil Valentine. Hey, December 28th, I celebrated my 38 years in sustained recovery. Yeah, I know I don't look that old, Yeah, I do. I got into recovery when I was 28. I just turned 66 in October. Um, Sandy recently retired just a couple weeks ago. She's way younger than me, so she just had her 60th birthday. We have one of the things that we're embarking on is going back to AA meetings and been regaling you with some of the early stories of some of the people we've met already in AA. That just warms my heart and just does all of that. So. I'm agreed with CCAR that once a month I'll be doing a coaching for coaches, and we're alternating them. Wednesdays seem we got some feedback that that might not be the best day for a lot, so we're switching from Fridays and Tuesdays, alternating throughout the year. So I have a list of 12 topics. These are all being recorded so people can access the CCAR webinar series. And then these can also be used for, what do we call them? Continuing education
Units or
units or
continuing
something.
education credits.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, whatever that
Cre-
stuff is.
Credits, Phil, credits.
Credits,
A
got it.
continuing education unit is 10 hours,
Gotcha.
not one.
Ah, I love it when Ruth's here too.
Oh, I love being here.
No, I don't want to give out any misinformation. I want to be accurate. That's one of my goals, to be accurate. Um, so why I'm saying this is I ran this probably 3 or 4 years ago, this topic today, and I don't think we were recording then to put it up on the CCAR website. As Sandy and our website develops, we will be adding a lot of these links as well. So on the front cover of the CCAR Recovery Coaching Academy, it says transformed people transform people. And I would imagine, I don't know this for sure, but I would guess that most of you have had some type of transformation in your lives. So that could be positive or negative, but so I want to hear, it doesn't have to be all of us, but of you that are willing, I would love to hear your name for the group, where you are sitting, and describe something that transformed for you. Um, and I wanted to, when I thought about this, I wanted to go kind of a different direction because most people will probably be fairly positive. But the thing that's been on my mind most recently is in 2024, I think, it was January, 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's B cell aggressive lymphoma. I know there's four pieces to it. I don't know if it's in the right order. So I had to undergo my second round of CHOP chemotherapy, and it's a pretty intense chemo. And I was amazed at watching my net transformation decline physically because of the chemo. You know, when you start to feel a certain way, I had to take 7 weeks off from work, lost my hair, lost my energy, lost my strength, but it saved my life again. And then I kind of because I look at like one of those times, unfortunate incidents when you go get your driver's license picture taken, and I was in the middle of like looking as about as frail and as weak as I possibly could imagine, and that's my driver's license picture. So it's a good reminder of that transformation of down into the pit to get well, and you come up out of the pit and rise. So there's been a gradual, slow transformation, what I would consider back to wellness, where physically I felt as good as I felt in the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So that's what I want to hear from you. Name where you're sitting. Oh, and I'm sitting in Warwick, Rhode Island, on a small little cottage right off a little cove off Narragansett Bay. So I'm on the water. And that's that. So who'd like to go? You can raise your virtual hands because looks like we got a few people in here today, which is great. So I can give you a call. Name where you're sitting and describe a transformation. Don't be shy. I need people who are like, that like to talk because we need to kick this thing off. So come on.
I'll speak.
So, well, I got some people raising their hands. So we got Nikki and then Daniel, and then I couldn't see, I can't always see who wants to speak. Go ahead, Nikki.
I love that. People who like to talk, that would be me.
Good.
So my name is Nikki Merrill, and I am in Portland, Maine. I'm a recovery coach professional and recovery coach professional facilitator here at Portland Recovery Community Center. And actually, I've gone through so many transformations that when you started talking about that, I was like, oh my God, do I do a physical one, a mental one, a spiritual one? And then
Oh,
it
that's
was like my brain. But really, the transformation that is most relevant to me is what I've been going through this past year. I had what I thought was my dream job, and it was my dream job, but it ended, and it
hmm.
happened all at the same time where I had met the man I'm now married to. I had my dream job. I was trying to help my brother restore his relationship back with his daughters because they're active in active substance use disorder and had lost them to the state. And all at once, it was like I lost my job. I gained a new job here at the recovery center. I got married, and then my brother lost the daughters to the state permanently. And the transformation was that I went from this really kind of high place to a valley, to a peak, to a valley, and it shook me up. This past year was a really rough time for me, not knowing how to control my anxiety, not knowing like I should be happy, but I'm not. And it was so many mixed emotions that I couldn't. And the transformation for me was recognizing that something was wrong and asking for help. And it brought me back to my early recovery when I really had to ask for help. And I, I did that and I took steps. And since doing that and knowing that I've been battling grief, and that kicked off a bunch of trauma. So I've been in that process of transforming through that. And I feel now like I had to ask, a doctor to get on medication. Like that's something I've avoided in my recovery is to be on medication. And I had to accept that. I had a lot of different, and it's funny, Phil, you mentioned the recovery royalty as a topic
Oh yeah.
because I'm really known in my recovery community and I put a lot of pressure on myself to hold this high standard. And it's not because of anything. I just want to be a good example to everybody. And that I also think people are expecting me to be. So I couldn't ask for help. I got stuck. I got so stuck in that.
Ooh.
And but I'm coming out on the other side. I finally got humble, asked for help, talked about it, was honest about it, showed my imperfection, showed where I was really at, and I find freedom. And it's opened up a whole new side of me that I haven't experienced in the entire time in my recovery. I feel more freedom than I ever have, and it's been amazing. So um, I don't know, like the freedom of transformation is in like surrender and honesty and vulnerability and all of those things. And I'm there. So now you get me. Like
Wow.
there.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Nikki. I appreciate your vulnerability and
you're
sharing that
welcome.
all with us. Wow. And you're a great leadoff hitter, so thank you. Daniel.
Hey guys, Daniel. I am in Los Angeles, California. This is a great topic. There's so many to choose from, but the one that had probably the most impact on me. I was in 2018, I had, I guess what could be only described as now sort of a mini stroke, but I didn't realize what it was. And it turned out I went in and I had a brain MRI, and my brain was full of lesions. It was like the most terrifying picture you could ever see. I still have it on my phone, but they were everywhere, and they were inside the brain and on the surface of the brain. And I went to my doctor of 20 years, and we were looking at it, and he said, "Oh my God, dude." He's like, I said, "So what is it?" And he says, "Well, it looks like cancer." And I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "Yeah." And he said, we're going to get you a team. We're going to get you to a neurologist and a brain surgeon today, and they're probably going to want to do a biopsy, and they're going to figure out what kind of cancer it is, and then you're going to be in for the fight of your life." And as I got up to leave, he hugged me and said, "Dude, I'm so fucking sorry." And I walked out of the room in shock and continued through the program. And basically, they told my wife at the time, I'm divorced now, but they told my wife at the time that they thought I had like 2 weeks to live. They didn't tell me this, of course. But it was pretty grave, pretty dark. And it was a wake-up call. It turned out it was an infection in my brain, a really, really, really rare infection that my doctor at Cedars immediately, when I woke up from surgery, asked if she could present me to the Mayo Clinic. So it was kind of a big deal for them, not for me. It was more horrifying. But what I realized during the 2 weeks that I was, waiting to have my biopsy and to figure out what it was, um, is that, they say your life flashes before your eyes, and mine did. In that, everywhere I went, everything that I did, every song I heard sparked a memory of my life that had me reminiscing and reliving moments. And what I came to realize is that the currency of your life is not anything you can buy. It's not anything that you can achieve. Um, the currency is your memories,
Mm.
and good and bad, right? And so, my family obviously very important, but like it was the just that experience of understanding that, I'm like typical American. I live in Los Angeles. It was very much go, go, go. What kind of car you got? Where are you eating? Where do you vacation? All this craziness where it was all about money, and none of that was fulfilling. And it totally turned me 180 degrees. And I've not gone back to the old person I was. I don't plan on ever going back to the old person that I was, because I've seen through the mirror, and I've seen through all the smoke. And you know, um, it is really, I mean, they preach it in here, mindfulness, and they preach it in recovery, mindfulness, and being where you are, because we only have this one life, and we have to make the most of it. So that was my transformation. Like I said, thankfully, I was able to beat back this with heavy, 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 heavy medication. But the experience changed me, scarred me in a good way, scarred me in a way that I can never forget how important it is to be present in my daily life. Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Hi, Kelly. How are you, dear?
Hello, Phil. Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Mills. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I'm also a RCP, recovery coach professional, and I'm a facilitator, a CCAR facilitator and training. I'm also the volunteer manager at the Wyndham Recovery Community Center. Today, I am supporting my CCAR family down in Bridgeport. So I'm at the Bridgeport Recovery Community Center helping out Betsy this morning. And my transformation was when I actually came to Willimantic, the really beginning of my recovery. I came to Willimantic and I stepped into a recovery community center. That is where my transformation became. They asked me how could they help me with my recovery, and I really didn't know how, but I was willing to, give them a chance, try something new, try something different. And so what happened is I fell in love with CCAR. I fell in love with the multiple pathways to recovery, many pathways to recovery or multiple pathways to recovery. And I was like, this is for me. And I liked their whole, I liked their whole, recovery coaching model of treating people as resources because no one ever asked me what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And so all my life, I never knew what my purpose in life was for. And so I now know that I went through what I went through with my addiction and my recovery so that I can serve other people and serve my higher power. And this serving other people is such a joy, it's such an honor. And my whole recovery has given me freedom. And this is how it just transformed me so that I have a servant's attitude now. It is not about me. And I love what I'm doing, and I love what my higher power is doing inside of me.
Wow. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Kelly. New London. Somebody gonna click on New London.
Hi, good morning. I'm Nikki. I'm in recovery. Um, I just want to say, like, my biggest downfall overall was losing my parents. The past 2 years, I lost them 6 months apart, and at the end, it was my like biggest hope, like, for me to get clean. It brought me down, but it brought me to realize that, um, no matter what happens, like, my higher power is always there, and um like that I didn't have to give up, that like it wasn't the end of the world.
Hmm.
I knew what I was gonna say. I'll get lost.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nikki. Let's go to Mickey. From Nikki to Mickey.
Mm.
Good
Good morning. Good morning.
morning.
So I'm Mickey Wiles. I'm located in Burlington, Vermont. I'm in a most wonderful co-working space here um, in Burlington, and I'm a RCPF that uh, holds training in Vermont for Vermonters under the CCAR flag, which I thoroughly enjoy. Um, the transformation in my life was. Uh, of course, I've had several, and recovery being one of them. But in my first year of recovery, my wife got pregnant with our third child, and um, about 20 weeks into the pregnancy, she had her water break and was bedridden, and they didn't know if they could hold uh, to keep the baby around long enough to be able to develop and survive. So um, and so that was just really the beginning. About 26 weeks, she ended up being transferred to the hospital, and over uh, like 2 weeks of being in labor, where they tried to hold off as much as they could. Um, my son was ultimately born at 1 pound 9 ounces
Wow.
with undeveloped lungs, and they did not give much chance or much hope to his survival. Uh, However, there were some treatment options that could be undertaken. Now, here I was, first year in recovery. Um, my wife had been through, I mean, just the 2 weeks of labor just completely drained her to the point where that she wasn't capable of really participating or doing anything. It was just to even have her participate in the decision-making process. My other kids were being taken care of by family, um, and I found myself fortunately we were in the Boston area at the time, and uh, um, we were in a very good hospital in Boston. But I found myself with being um, completely alone.
Hmm.
And but then I realized I really wasn't completely alone. That was the first time that I really had the opportunity to call upon a higher power. And through that process, I recognized it was really the first recognition in my life of how little control I had, and what that I could only be available and supportive supporting my wife, being available to the doctors and nurses to make the decisions along the way. Um, Ultimately, what happened is they gave my son his first treatment. It didn't work. They came back to me and told me that, and they said, sometimes we can give it a second time, and sometimes it'll work. But they held us such little chance and little hope. Um, and um, then they gave him the second treatment, and it took, and he was able to continue on. Now he was 1.9 ounces. He had a long road ahead of him. He was in the hospital for 2 months. And it was an incredible journey, but it changed so much in my life in the way that I looked at things and the way that I handled myself. Um, and the amazing thing is that it happened, I had like 9 months of sobriety at this point, which isn't a lot, but it was a hell of a lot better than what it would have been like if it had been a year before when that happened. And so, and I'm happy to say that my son is turning 34 very shortly, and it's
Wow.
been an amazing experience and a gift that I'll always cherish and appreciate. So, thanks.
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Mickey. Barbara.
I don't know if I can follow that, to be honest with you.
Who could?
Um, Hi, my name is Barbara Alexander. I am a CCAR facilitator. I live in Port Huron, Michigan. So, for anybody that understands, we always describe with the palm. I'm right about here, right on Lake Huron. I see Canada every day, about a quarter of a mile from where I'm at.
Hmm.
Um, I heard a lot of things that I can relate to, and I think that the transformation happens all the time, and they are life changing, whether we realize it at the moment or not. I think one of my biggest ones was in my early recovery, very early. I had alcohol induced dementia, and I love when therapists or counselors or whatever would ask if I ever blacked out, and I would tell them for years, and they would chuckle, and I wasn't joking. Learning how to talk again, learning how to hold space for other people was a long, long battle. But in that battle is where that transformation took place. I had to do my healing for the first year and a half on the inside before I could communicate with anybody on the outside. And it changed my whole life. Who I was before that time and then who I'm after is it's very, very different. And I noticed that oftentimes I have to go back to that solitude just for my sanity and kind of dealing with how my brain works, that solitude of healing on the inside. I love helping people. But it's a constant reminder of we have to help ourselves and we have to be okay in order to be able to hold that space and offer that hope. So
Hmm.
I practice that regularly, and I learned that in the multiple pathways too. And I love that going 8 years in recovery and finding like adult children of dysfunctional families, and it was like a gut punch, and it hit me all over again. And I'm like, right when you think you got a handle on something, you find another pathway that sheds a light in another way, and it never ceases to astound me. So I love that, and I love that I get to do what I do.
Yeah. Thank you, Barbara.
Welcome.
Veronica. Good to see you, Veronica.
Hi, good morning, Phil. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks.
Good. So I want to talk about the most profound transformational point in my life. I'm going to circle back to like about so when I first was introduced to CCAR, that was a foundational transformation for me, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, so I'm not going to go into that too much. But fast forward 11 and a half years later, during that period, I was in recovery. And so the most profound transformation is what I call the fall. And that's when I picked up again. I picked up after 11 and a half years, and I realized, and the funny part about that is that I had probably about a month prior to that had prayed to my higher power, who I choose to call God, um, help me get closer to you.
Oh.
And boy, did he ever. He did.
Mm.
So it was about a month later I fell, and I stayed out. Well, it was a struggle for probably about a year and a half. Um, and then I went through treatment again, and I was introduced to a sober house that I went into, which was Community of Hope, and it's a faith-based house. And so through that transformation, I experienced humility like I had never experienced it before, which for me is foundational.
Mhm.
I've, learned how to renew my mind. I have conscious contact with my higher power, which I believe is essential to my transformation. Relationship is huge. With my higher power on a daily basis so that I can continue to work towards becoming, for me, more Christ-like in secular terms, more the best version of who I can be. So, so that was the most profound transformation that I have had. And though I lost a lot throughout that transformation, tangible things, I lost everything, like right down, not to be crazy or anything. I mean, I had recovery houses of my own, and I lost everything right down to my, I'll say, socks.
Mhm. Okay.
So anyway, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't go back.
Hmm. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ruth.
Hi there, Phil, and congratulations on Valentine recovery, and your new life. It's great to see you.
Mhm.
And it's great to see and hear everybody this morning. These are wonderful stories, and there's a sense in which it's transformational for me to hear these stories and to have a deeper sense of the people I'm privileged to be in community with today. So I want to thank you, everybody, for that. I'm in agreement with Barbara. I believe I agree with you, Barbara, that we're transforming all the time, whether we're, we're putting our consciousness on those transformations or not. And there's no greater example of that process for me than the fact that our cells, every cell in our body is renewed every 7 years, or so the story goes. So we are transformed physically or biologically, even as we transform psychically or psychologically. Um, so I want to thank you, Barbara, for reminding me of that. In my own case, I think a pivotal experience for me was not coming to America, which of course is a wonderful experience. I'm so grateful to be here. Not getting sober as such, which of course is an enormously transformative experience. But I think the single most important pivotal experience for me was coming face to face with my own mortality. And it happened while I was visiting friends in Minnesota, was over about 23 years ago, I think. And as we were driving with my oldest friend, we were driving to a brunch party. I started talking gibberish to her, absolute gibberish. And I had this excruciating headache. And I knew in my mind wasn't affected. I knew in my mind what I wanted to say, but I couldn't transmit the thought from my brain out through my mouth coherently. She said afterwards that she thought maybe I had reverted to speaking Irish, but no, I was speaking gibberish.
Mhm.
And I I put up with I put up with the headache for a number of hours. I took myself into a darkened room. I talked to nobody. We dropped me off at home. She had to see about her children. And I, picked up a newspaper. I couldn't make sense of the newspaper. All the columns and all the print was, dancing in front of my eyes. I couldn't read. I turned on the television, same thing. I was looking at four different pictures rather than one. I couldn't read. I couldn't look at the television. There was nothing I could do to divert me from my thoughts. And I thought, and of course, I thought, what is this? I had no idea what this was. I said to myself, I asked myself the obvious question, is this the end? Is this the end of the road? And I was quite calm. If that was the case, I accepted that that was the case. But the question that I had for myself, the moral question that I had for myself was, well, if this is the end of the road, have I lived a good enough life? And the question was for myself. It wasn't for St. Peter. I wasn't rehearsing for the pearly gates. The question was for myself. Had I lived a good enough life? And my serenity in that moment was dependent on being able to answer that question positively. When I thought about it afterwards, I thought, how interesting. At the moment when I accepted the possibility that I was to die in the very near term, the question that I had for myself was not, had I been perfect, but had I been good enough? And that was transformative for me. That's what lifted the weight off my shoulders, the weight of always being perfect. I still like to be effective and I still like to be competent, but I no longer have to be perfect. I fell asleep. I woke up 4 hours later, headache gone, speech restored, and discovered subsequently that what I had was a very common occurrence. It's called an aphasic migraine. Aphasic meaning you can't speak or you can't speak other than gibberish. And migraine, of course, everybody knows as a terrible headache. You do recover after 4 hours sleep, and I slept that 4 hours on the nail. It seems to be implied, hormonal disturbance seems to be implied, and I was at the time on some hormonal medication, not HRT, not the pill, something else. Immediately stopped the medication, and I ended up having major surgery to fix the underlying cause. But that has stayed with me for more than 20 years. The fact that in extremis, if you like, in my foxhole, if you like, the standard that was important to me was not perfect. It was good enough. And
Yeah.
I thank sobriety for that, and I thank everybody here for being part of the community that gave me such a gift. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I was reminded when Art Woodard always used to say, "What you have is good enough," and I adopted that. What you have is good enough. I can only do two more, and then we got to move on. So we're going to do Ed and Priscilla. We'll get back to you at further on in New London. So who did I say first? Priscilla or Ed? I can't remember.
Priscilla can go first.
Okay.
And I was going to give my spot up to the other people when you said the two. I pulled my hand down, but I'll be quick.
Oh,
Good morning. My name is Priscilla Schaefer, and I don't have the thing, but I too am from Michigan. I heard someone else say that, but I currently live over here by West Michigan, or in West Michigan. I'm in Spring Lake, and I'm not far from Lake Michigan. So that's how we describe ourselves. I'm a native Detroiter. I live in West Michigan. So that's me. Thinking about a person in long-term recovery. I too just celebrated my anniversary in December, and my sobriety anniversary is 12/21/2001. So December must be, let's not ruin any more Christmases, Priscilla, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so if you can relate to that. Currently what I do is I'm a recovery coach professional facilitator. I am no longer working in the full-time world, so the transformation acceptance, and I'm good at it now. It's going on 2 or 3 years now that I'm not working full time and able to say no here and there. So I'm currently, and I can't say that I need a different word than saying I'm just doing training. So that comes out of my mouth now and then, saying, "What are you doing these days, Priscilla?" "Oh, I just do training." No, so we need a new word besides just. So to say that, and thinking about the transformation for me is that role from working full time, being out in the community full time, and all those things, and as the transformation in my life, living life on life's terms, reeling it back as to um, the nice things that I get to do is say no. I don't have to drive all over the county in the winter, except January and February. I do trainings between Muskegon and Holland over here in West Michigan, and the transformation is, I would say, accepting that. That's a tough one. Accepting that I am older and I'm not as accessible as I used to be, of wanting to be all out there and stuff. So I appreciate the virtual world, which has been a gift to me, because as I get older, no, I'm not ready for prime time just for today, a little bit of prime time here, but I'm not ready for prime time. So the virtual world has been a gift to me for academics and also for recovery meetings. So I'm very active in my own personal private life, and I keep the world separate. So I guess for me, the transformation is I can still do the things that I used to do, but it's just a different scope. So, and sometimes people will say, "You're not in enough in-person meetings," and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, they don't know what I know, and it's I can get fed right here in my own little virtual world without stepping outside in this Lake Michigan weather here. So anyway, I appreciate everything you do and everything you guys do, and it's really nice. And that is one of the huge transformations for me, is to be able to connect with all the folks here, because if there was no virtual world, we wouldn't be here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, appreciate all of you, and have a grand day wherever you are.
Thank you, Priscilla. Ed.
Hey, everyone. Phil, thanks so much. It's so good to see everyone. I'm listening to all the shares, and I feel like I am being transformed even in this moment as I'm listening to all of you. So thank you. I wanted to raise my hand because when I look at my transformation, I see it in two parts. And the first part is change. And then the second part is a full awareness of what the transformation was and is for me. My change began, that first part. Oh, by the way, I'm coming to you live from Weehawken, New Jersey, the gateway entrance to the Lincoln Tunnel into Manhattan.
Okay.
My first transformation began as a change 21 years ago today. It was my first 12-step meeting. So, but the transformation, I was not aware of what a transformation even was. Those first years were primarily change of how I think, change of behaviors, a physical change that I was going through. It wasn't until 2015 that someone suggested that I do this course in CCAR's Recovery Coach Academy. That was a full understanding for me for the first time that not only do we change in recovery, that we also experience a transformation. And that was the appreciation and the respect and all of the love that helped me understand how I can, one, forgive myself truly, but more importantly, take the focus off of me and put the focus on someone else. That transformation idea changed my entire life. I saw, the first thing I noticed about the program when I took it was the picture of a person on a mountaintop reaching down, lifting up someone else. And it said, transform people, transform people. And I thought, what the hell? What is this transformation thing? And 5 days later, after taking that course, my life was changed. And to this day, I will forever be grateful for transformed people who transform me. Thanks, everybody.
Wow. Thank you. Great segue. Here's your first pondering question that I want you to jump in on. What transforms? And I chose that word, what, specifically. What transforms? And again, this is the part where one of you is brave and raises your virtual hand and kicks this conversation off. Troy, good to hear from you.
Well, you said one word, right? You're looking for a word that transforms?
No, my word was, my
Oh, your
question is
word was.
what transforms,
Okay.
and I chose what specifically. So I want to
Nice.
know what transforms.
So desire would transform someone, and you have a desire for change in your life. If I'm not, am I not answering the question the way you wanted it answered? I'm not sure, but
I don't have any way that I want the question answered.
okay,
I want
good,
you
good
to
enough. Well,
answer it the way you want to.
because when you talk about transformation, I see that a lot where people get stuck. And when
Uh-huh.
they find a desire in their life that they want something better for themselves, and it actually drives them to be able to transform into something else and grow into something else.
Right, like I think 12 steps would say that's willingness, right?
Right, exactly.
I gotcha. So, okay. But again, so we have the willingness to transform. What transforms? And we can come back to you. Pete.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, Pete.
Hi, hi, everybody. Yeah, that's a great question, and I like what Troy was asking because I was thinking that could be a lot of different things, right? It's like asking if our personality changes when we get clean and sober, right?
Hmm.
I mean, it's 50-50 from my research, right? Me personally, I think our choices change. That's what transforms. But it's kind of driven by something in our heart. Like I used to be a thief. I can't do it anymore. I can't even like pickpocket a pack of gum without feeling guilty, right? Because part of it is like I know the energy of it, of stealing, and I want clean energy. And that's kind of my motive right now. And so what transforms, I think it's a combination of heart and decisions. So it's maybe heart and mind, maybe soul and mind. But then sometimes I feel things in my body, right? Like, oh, I don't like that, and things that I used to be comfortable with. Like when I think about some of the things I did in my past that seemed normal, quote unquote normal, it's not normal to me anymore. And in some ways, some things disgust me, but that's just me. It's not the person. I know it's just the behavior, but yeah, that's kind of what I think.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, Tyrell. Good to see you. What transforms?
For me, what transforms is my thinking and my thoughts, because then that leads to the life changes and those other transformations that I see in my life. So for me, it starts with my thinking and my thoughts is what transforms.
Okay. Thank you. Your mic's a little staticky, sketchy. I'm not quite sure what that is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm at the office, maybe. All right, thanks.
All right. Hi, Jason. What transforms?
Hi, Phil. It's great to see you again.
Likewise.
Um, for me, well, I think that an event, either good or bad, can change. For me, it was the latter. Uh, Kidney failure got me here, got me sober. So yeah, a good or even a bad event in your life.
Okay. Thank you. Heather, what transforms? What transforms?
Yeah, that's a great question, Phil. So I think, in my opinion, openness transforms, and that openness can come from a variety of sources. Maybe it's an event, maybe it's an enlightening moment. But I think being open to new ideas, new opportunities, is what helps to facilitate that change and allows for transformation.
Thank you, Heather. New London.
Hello, my name is Ronnie. I've been in recovery since 2005, in and out. But for me, what changed for me was my whole outlook on life, how I perceive myself, and what I come to believe in myself, and what I do for my recovery today.
Okay, I like that. Deb, what transforms?
Hi guys. I'm kind of feeling the same thing. I believe it's our spirit. For me personally, I know what transform is. It is attitude, it's spirit. It's the way that can intake the world. It's also the way that I can output my behavior in the world or my emotion, my feeling. I think it's my path walk and my journey of life is what transform, and it's a continuum. Um, and I'm in it right now. So it's to not stay stagnant. I heard such wonderful things today. It's to reach out and help, but it's me. It's I transform by my experiences, the things that touch me, the things that are frightening, the things that are beautiful and wonderful. It could be nature or human life, connection. So it's all of those things combined. I don't think it'll ever be just one thing. I think it'll be in corporate of all of these things. And then it's a way of giving back and sharing to hopefully make a difference with somebody else so they too transform.
Okay, thank you, Deb. Hey, Luke, what transforms?
Morning, everybody, and thank you, everybody, for being vulnerable. The self-realization of the individual transforms the individual. That's how I see it.
Okay, thank you. Mickey, what transforms?
So, if you had said how, I think that would be a
Yeah.
completely different answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the what, it reminds me of something that you share frequently is the four quadrants. And what change is my physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh, New London, what transforms down there in New London? What?
Hi, I'm Edwin. Um, I'm originally from Waterbury, and what transformed for me was my latitude, uh, different city, so to speak. My brother suffers from Alzheimer's, wet brain. He was an alcoholic, and he got advanced Alzheimer's from the drinking. And he always told me, Ed, I don't ever want you to change your attitude, just your attitude. And when I took his advice before he lost his marbles, I came here to London, and it was for the best because as I struggled through my addiction in that city, I came here. Not saying that there's not no drugs here, but it's a different environment for me. So with that change, it also changed my outlook in my life, and not only my outlook, but the positivity around here with a lot of support. And it also changed my heart. So with that, I surrendered to Jesus, and a whole positive outcome came from it. And I'm just looking forward to passing that hope to someone that's struggling in this world that don't know these rooms exist. Because when I first came here, I didn't know it existed, and it gave me a lot of hope, and I could pass that on to someone else that's struggling.
Thank you, New London. Um, Charlene, what transforms?
Good morning,
Morning.
Phil, everybody. I love your dualism or multiplism in your question there. What?
Mm-hmm.
So my rabbi teaches about the neshama. Many people refer to it as the soul, having divine innate characteristics that we get to draw out of ourselves by tapping into our inner qualities. And for me, I am able to transform by tapping into my my innate characteristics and traits by having authentic, um, inspiring leadership. So mentors who can help draw that out for me, and teach me the way how to do that.
Wow, thank you, Charlene. Um, I think for me, what transforms is, I mean, if we have a lens we look through the world, my lens shifts, my entire lens shifts, and the energy I take in shifts, everything shifts. Um, and when I've done this years ago, to kind of follow what Charlene was saying, I do think my soul transforms in the sense that I was down, my energy was depleted in my soul when I was actively addicted. And now it's a question of re-energizing my soul. And when I'm at more power, energy, light in my soul, everything else follows. And that's just for me. It's kind of a light spiritual connection. But when we and I'll just run this out there because a couple of you talked about it, which I was so appreciative of. When you think of transformation, and we go to the four quadrants of healing, I know they're all interrelated, but they're physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and we tie it back to the what Ed referred to as, that picture on the cover of the uh, Recovery Coach Academy of a guy pulling someone up on the mountain. Transform people. Which quadrant rings most true to you and why? What do you think that is? Which one? Luke.
The emotional for me, my
Ooh,
transformation was finding
interesting.
self-compassion and love for myself. That's what changed. Inner child visualization work, right? Giving my younger self a hug. That was the turning point in my life.
So,
I
so
recovered.
okay, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Challenge.
Yeah, you're
So
good.
you had a change, a transformation. Name like what you name an emotion that transformed to a different emotion when you think about that.
Hate to love.
Ooh, okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I like it. And that was like self-hate and self-love or hate of the world and hate of yeah, gotcha. Cool. I always teach you facilitate discussions what you most need to learn. So that's one of the privileges and joy of me of how much I get to learn from you guys. Okay, anybody else want to tackle the four quadrants? Any thoughts that came to your mind? Ruth, I see you like going up there. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I want to, great question as usual, Phil, and I want to thank Luke for speaking. I too find transformation to be a part of the emotional quadrant. Absolutely, that sort of that the change for me was absolutely emotional, and in the sort of in the piece of my history that I shared a little earlier, the change there was definitely from fear to acceptance, fear of death and fear of the moment of death, to accepting the inescapability and reality of it. And I found that emotional shift to be very comforting.
Wow. Cool. Somebody else, come on now. Like we had a whole line of hands, and now there's like you guys don't want to like jump on this topic. Come on, the four quadrants. What do you think was the transformation? There we go, Mickey. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm trying to not overshare, so it's but anyways, I think it for me, and even what Luke and Ruth described, they described it as an emotion, as emotional, but for me, that actually fits in the spiritual.
Hmm.
And the spiritual quadrant to me overlays a lot of the other three quadrants. And it was the transformation um, of being able to to rethink my positions on. I'm going to use an AA, um, refer to AA in terms of the spiritual principles. And the
Hmm.
spiritual principles, uh, by um, by looking at all of those in relationship to my particular outlook, then had the impact of changing um, my emotional, mental, and physical states. But it's all started with the spiritual aspect of it.
Got you. Thank you for that. Troy.
I'm going to touch a little bit back on something that Luke said about being a child with the emotions.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago, I got into doing a childhood trauma group in the jail. And I
Hmm.
walked into it because I was passionate about it until I started finding myself in almost all the words I talked about. And then when I had to open up in group to try to give examples, I had myself. So
Hmm.
I had to talk about the times I was abused as a child by the men and women in my life that I was growing up, and I had to explain how I had to learn that I didn't have to be controlled by the events anymore of my past, and I had to learn how to be able to look at the emotions of being vulnerable and being scared and fearful, as those are okay emotions to have, but I had to transform into that. And so it was the emotional part that I had to learn from as I was trying to teach it. I had to find it myself to be able to do it. And that's what really helped me get a better understanding of what I was doing to myself and living.
Right. You teach best what you most need to learn. I just said that.
Did.
That's one of the
Yep.
lessons of life and recovery. Yeah. Thank you. Stefan.
Hi, I'm Stefan. I'm a recovering addict. Um, so before I heard that these were like the four corners or whatever, I
Yeah.
actually heard that there was a fifth, and it was a star. The other one was financial, and those are the
Okay.
five. Those were the five things that encompassed the thing. But anyway, the financial was the one that I worked on the most. I only worked on that, which made all those four corners completely depleted and empty, which is actually why I ended up relapsing. Because I had no balance in my life at all. Everything was about a dollar only. I was very spiritually unwell, emotionally unwell, everything, all that stuff. So all those things to me are all exactly as important as the others, because like in my recovery, I need to find balance. The ones that messed me up the most was spiritual and emotional, because when I was very spiritually super unwell, that let the evil in. That's what happened with that, and it put me in an emotionally crazy, just I don't know, whatever. But the
Mhm.
spiritual and emotional ones are the most important ones for me.
So, what was this thing where the four corners, and you said there was a fifth one, financial? Was that an actual thing that you saw, or did it
Yeah,
just come
yeah,
up?
yeah. I saw that somewhere. They
Huh.
said there was five things that encompass like life, and it
Okay.
was the four plus the fifth. But I worked on that one, and that was the last one you're supposed to actually work on, because if you work on the four corners, the fifth one will present itself.
Oh, yeah, and that's interesting because I got the four quadrants from whitebison.org. The Red Road to Wellbriety was the first place I saw the four quadrants, and the new one for me was the emotional healing. Back many years ago, I'd never really heard about emotional healing, so I love that part.
Mm.
Um, Thank you for that. Priscilla.
Gotta do that. Hi, I'm still Priscilla. What I was thinking about is for the lens for me, for those four quadrants, is even more so why I'm here today. And for me, that transformation for the lens, for the quadrants, is being silent and listening. So whether it's listening to my physical well-being, am I taking care of myself? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do, doing those things? So one of the things I did was, thinking about, exercise and sleep. So I'm taking different things, aspect of that, taking a break. I love Verner's, which is Michigan's version of ginger ale, and the thinking patterns of clarity, managing my stress. So instead of instead of expressing myself out loud, I'm silent and I listen more. Like I don't have to have an answer to everything everybody says. And I'll be like, when I'm facilitating, I'm like, what do you think about that? I don't have to have all the answers, and I don't know all the answers, and I don't want people to think I know the answers. And then thinking about processing my feelings. What am I feeling right here today? And I think for me, it's a good reminder of what's my purpose? What's my connection? So thinking about the transformation of lens for me is listen and be silent, which is the same thing to me. So anyway, I appreciate you all again.
Yeah, thank you. When I think about for me, uh, I tend to agree with a couple people. I would lean more towards I think everything transforms really. When you go to treatment, right, they focus first on getting you physically well. You have to detox physically and get your body shaped. Then they want to talk about how you're thinking. AA would talk about stinking thinking, is what I recall. And then some places might talk about the spiritual, but very few will talk about the emotional. Um, and for me, I felt like I was in the grips of evil and darkness when I was addicted, that it was just had a stranglehold on me. And then recovery started to break that cycle with good, light, love. So I think for me, it was uh, the major transformation for me was spiritual. That's where I would go. But I love what everybody else says. It's just like fascinating. Barbara.
I completely agree with you. I went to treatment multiple times, uh, and they do treat physical, mental, and then emotional. It's a behavioral thing too, especially in that group and in a treatment center. You have to kind of deal with that. And the last time that I went through that and I had to recover at home and in seclusion, it was the opposite of that. And that's what changed for me, I think. And everybody's different. I'm not saying that one way or one thing is the other, but when I was thinking about it as everybody was talking, when you were asking and what happened first, and it was absolutely my transformation moment that changed everything and brought me to where I'm at today, started spiritually, which helped me get a handle on my emotions so that I could calm down the screaming in my head and all the jibber jabber and everything that was happening, which allowed me to focus more on mentally rebuilding, which began helping my body heal. It went in the backwards order of where medical facilities were trying to take it. And
Okay.
I agree. I don't know that I have a point in that's
Oh,
profound or anything, but
that's fine. Thank you. Wonderful.
that's where I got.
Charlene.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out where you got the 4 quadrants from White Bison.
Mhm.
Love their theology. So I have definitely operated myself mostly out of the emotional, spiritual, and psychological. I remember in the early part of my recovery, I was doing 3 different types of therapists, had 3 different therapists. I would call that like psychological,
Yeah.
and emotional. And the spiritual has definitely been a huge part. It's been the main part of my transformation. But here lately, I have come to realize how underrated the physical transformation is because,
Right.
yeah, simply doing a little physical act like, washing your hands can change your frame of reference, your mindset, and but of course the the bigger ones, like here in Colorado Springs we have the incline. It's steps. There's 2,200 railroad ties up Pikes Peak, not all the way to the top of Pikes Peak, but part of the way up. And I still haven't done the whole thing. I think I've gotten to like 1,700, but I know when I get to that 22, my mindset is going to change, from where it is now because of
Yeah,
me overcoming and being able to finally do it. So
that's cool. Thank you, Charlene. I think of my son Matthew, who's what, he's 2000, he's 21, 22. I don't know how old he is. Oh, he's 20, I don't know how old my kids are. He's 23. But anyway, he is a physical trainer in a high level gym in at Equinox. And he is so physically active and strong. Um, and he's also a young man in recovery, been to one 12-step meeting his entire life. And he says that the physical activity got rids himself of the anxiety, which led him to sedate or medicate himself. And so the physical is first and foremost for him, I would guess. And that was just another example of a different pathway of recovery that we don't often think, that him staying so active, so strong physically is really the basis of his transformation and his recovery. New London. You have to like unmute yourself, New London. Are you New London? There you go.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, mine started when I was, first of all, I suffer from PTSD, and I lost myself for a long time, numbing my pain.
Yeah.
And during that addiction, I lost myself. And
Hmm.
at one point, I had to stop, and that's where I took a reflection, and I had to love myself
Hmm.
so I could better myself. And I didn't know how to go about it. And I just started praying really hard for forgiveness. And it just, something overwhelmed me. And I just stopped one day and started walking around, and I bumped into the C car. And that's where my transformation began. And with that, I just was so hopeful uh, because suffering from what I have, I was in psychosis a lot, and
Hmm.
I had to just keep praying and reminding myself I'm worth it. I'm worth everything here. And now that I have my clarity, I just want to pass that on because I believe if I could do it, anybody has the ability to do it for themselves. And it's got to be for themselves. You can't just pressure anybody. But when anybody comes to me, I just guide them, as gently as I can because I don't want to just ever distract them from whatever their true love is, and it begins with themselves.
Amen. Yeah, wonder. Thank you. I always I'm going to pose the question here. I don't want anybody to answer it, but it's one of the most controversial questions I pose. It's usually in the Advanced Academy. But I start out with the premise. I've come to the conclusion that I cannot love myself. And I also pose the question that nobody can love themselves, that you have to let love in from other sources. You can take care of yourself, but I don't know that you can love it. And it might just be a question of terminology, and I don't want anyone to jump on it, but just think about that. Can you really love yourself? Or do you have to let something or somebody else do that for you? Now, hey, librarian, Khalees, you've been sitting there quiet, but you took your librarian glasses off. So, you okay? What are you thinking about so far there from the United Kingdom?
Well, your question is a very broad, Phil. Would you like to give me some clarity on what you're looking for first?
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay. Well,
Tell me,
no.
do you just want overarching?
My questions are always very, but
I know. So I'll tell you what I wrote about. So I wrote about a transformation. My recent transformation is me as a mother.
mhm.
My son is going to be 13 this year, and I'm feeling this in between space with time right now. My
Yeah.
son is talking about wanting to do engineering and architecture and I think as we watch our kids grow up and we look at the next stage where now I'm like holding on to every laugh and every conversation because he's becoming older and he's developing into himself. So that's kind of me as a mother, my in-between phase of transformation right now.
Yeah.
And I think, and ultimately, whenever you talk about what transforms, we could sit here and create a whole list together. I mean, we already did. I mean, a lot of people did in
Yeah.
the chat. Perceptions, desires, identity, meaning making, relationships, whatever. But ultimately, I put what transforms is the way we relate to the world around us and to ourselves within it.
So
Because
you,
that covers all values, identity, that
oh, I
covers.
agree. So that's well said as always. So let me ask you, I'll start off and get your initial reaction right away for the question we're going to take the next 20 minutes to pondering. You ready?
What do you want?
Is the transformation of the recovery the responsibility of the recovery coach?
No,
And why do you say that?
I have no control over what transforms within an individual.
Okay.
I can, we can all want, we can all, that's just stroking my ego if I think I have control over what transforms within an individual. That's my
Okay.
immediate perception. Okay. So, like, I might change, I don't know. We'll see where this goes, but you wanted my initial reaction. So I'm just going to leave it there.
All right. Thank you. Anybody? Any other thoughts? Transformation of the recovery, is that the responsibility, and is that the right term, of the recovery coach? Luke, what are you thinking?
I feel our responsibility as recovery coaches are to plant the seeds of hope. Now, it is the responsibility of the recovery for those to grow. It is their self-realization to potentially use those tactics and things that have been learned to change their life. But we can't do it for them. We can show them the way. You can lead a horse to water, but can't make him drink, right? That's how I view it. Now I can live by example. I can say things that worked for me. I can motivate, motivational interviewing, having them have that self-realization of maybe I can accomplish this, but at the end of the day, it is their own journey and theirs alone to take.
Okay. Thank you. Father Martin said you can lead a horse to water. You can't get him to drink, but you can make him damn thirsty. Anyway, that's completely, I don't know why I said that. Pete.
Maybe because it's relevant, right, Phil?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with Luke. I don't think we're responsible for transforming it. Once you asked that question, I was reminded of someone I was sent to go to recovery coach yesterday, right? And I had been hearing about this person for the past couple of weeks. I work at one of my roles is to work at the emergency department and provide
Ooh.
recovery coaching to patients there.
Mhm.
And this person has been around. A lot of people knew who he was, and I thought, okay, maybe it's going to be me that can help, shift the balance for him, right? I started talking to him as I got to know him and talk about resources and people and places. He knew more than me, and I told him that. And he even had bouts of recovery,
Yeah.
complete sobriety, like 12, a year, 14 months, 15 months. He even served in one of the local sober houses on their leadership team.
Mhm.
And I told him as much. I said, and then I made this comment, kind of trite as it was. I said, you gotta get sick and tired of being sick and tired, because I know all the slogans. And I
Yeah.
laughed and I said, okay, how about one more? And I said, my favorite one, Bruce Lee. Knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. And then he was grateful for that one because he said, "Oh, I never heard that one." So
Yeah, there
anyway,
you go.
yeah, I don't think it's our responsibility. So
What is our responsibility?
like a lot what Luke said, I think we
Okay.
hold a space of um for me personally, I believe anyone can change, whether they do or not, that's up to them.
Okay.
But I hold that space for them. I hold the space of belief that they can change when they're ready to choose to. And then, as recovery coaches, one of our roles is to provide them resources. I thought maybe I could come in there, bring my art a little bit different. And no, he was way ahead of me already. So it was a unique experience. So
Okay.
thanks,
Thank
Phil.
you. Mickey.
Yeah, I was going to take my hand down, but I figured you probably would come back to me anyways. Um, uh, because I really do agree with what everybody said. And Tyrell put a one sentence in the chat that I think sums it up pretty good. Um, but I think I'm responsible to be the best coach that I can be to provide the opportunity to individuals to have the ability to transform, but I'm not responsible for their outcomes. I'm not responsible if they're successful in their outcomes, and I'm not responsible if they're not successful in their outcomes. So
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. So we're agreeing that that it seems like we're at some kind of consensus that we are not directly responsible for the recovery's transformation. All right. Then, if we go back to that, taking the cover of the Recovery Coach Academy, transformed people transform people, what is our responsibility? Kathy, go ahead. You got to unmute yourself, Kathy. Hit the unmute button, Kathy. We're rooting for you. Well, Kathy can't seem to find the unmute button. So anyway, we'll get back to you. Heather.
Yeah, so I think our responsibility is to provide as much active listening, as many thought-provoking questions, and as many resource connections as possible. I think our responsibility is to do the best job that we can. But at the end of the day, I agree with those who answered the previous questions. We are not directly tied to the outcome.
Okay. Stefan?
So yeah, there's like resource broker and all that stuff, but I also, from my personal perspective, I believe that it's kind of my responsibility to be like a lighthouse to show that it's possible. That's from me being in recovery myself, and I don't really like the wording on this, but kind of like monkey see, monkey do. Like, hey, it's possible,
Okay.
and I can help you along. I can help people along with that and stuff, and cheerlead you on and stuff like that. But I feel like if someone sees another person doing the things they're telling them to do, or knows that they're doing that, or talk about it, or anything like that, it can put that seed deep into them, and just get their thought process going and moving and feeling better about themselves. And hey, I can do this.
Well said. Thank you, Stefan. New London.
How you doing, Edwin? Lead by example. I mean, for me, treating the person with a lot of empathy, compassion. Sometimes you don't know their mental state, but when you are open-hearted, purely without um, any recognition, and just giving the person the self-respect that they lost and encourage them in any way they can and show the tools that we have that are available to them and give them the best outcome for them. At the end of the day, we just want to try to save them.
Okay. Thank you. Deb.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's authenticity. When we're working with others, I don't get paid to do the job, at least not right now. I will be applying at some point, but um, the one thing I do in my life is I'm kind of already that in a lot of other people's lives. And it's not, I think it comes, natural, knowing resources, connection, being an example, giving a sense of hope when there isn't hope, planting a seed. So I think the responsibility is also knowing where your lines are, professionally, personally, connection. And I think that comes as we get to intertwine with a person. And each person is obviously an individual. So each person will may need something different from what you can acquire from within yourself, what you can acquire within your professionalism, and then making connection points where and if you can. But I'll stand with the same. I agree. You, we can't we can help to save in a sense to be there, but from I'll say personal experience, we can't always save lives. And when a person, when their connection piece is so broken, um, we can't take on that sense of that part of the responsibility of it within life. I hope this doesn't sound dreary to anybody, but I guess I've had enough experience in life of realizing is that that comes from an inside place. And is our responsibility to spark? Absolutely. Is it our responsibility to listen? Absolutely. And to care, and to be authentic. Um, I think, but our responsibility comes to walking the walk, being the walk. It's a part of all of that.
Yeah, thank you. Khalees, could you expound on what you wrote in the chat, please?
I said, look in the mirror. I think, I mean, Phil, we've talked about this many times, whenever it's like you see people and maybe the arrogance or the ego is going. I mean, even I talk about it, I see people and sometimes I think they get into this role more to flatter their selves than to support other people. And I think we have to do the work on on ourselves. So that means taking a real look at myself and doing that work. And I mean, I say if you spot it, you got it. That doesn't mean it's active, but that still means that it was at some point. So like whenever I see the personality traits, showing up or everything, I recognize that because I also recognize that in an older version of myself. And so how can I really support others? And I was even looking, going back to the definition I wrote for transformation, and one of them I wrote was transformation is a returning from illusion to essence. And it's like, if I'm returning to being whole, how can I transform others if I'm not whole within myself? So I just think we got to do that work. Now, I'm not going to say that I am cured. I'm an almighty God. I'm not saying I'm above anybody else. I'm on a journey. We on the road, but it's getting better. I can tell you I'm a better coach today than I was 5 years ago. I'm a better person than I was 5 years ago. I'm a better mother, I'm a better professional, daughter, all of those things, but we're on the road.
Thank you. Well said. Priscilla.
I'm still Priscilla. I had nothing to say till Khalees brought that up, and it just reminded me. A lot of times, what happens, and I don't know, I can't even speak for myself. I call it the alphabet gets in the way, and I think my responsibility, just Priscilla's, is to connect people to the community, not be the community. I see this so much that people will depend on their coach or the facility, and I'm like, okay, so now what if I go on a trip somewhere? Where's my support system? So I think that's my responsibility, is to provide community resources, connect people to the community as much as they want to, and not be the community. Go home at night, tune out, tune off. That's Priscilla's responsibility.
Okay. Khalees, you just raised your hand again?
I was just going to say too, I think that when we talk about transform people, sometimes it can be so simple. Like we don't have to overcomplicate it. I mean, immediately I was just thinking about a girl I coached this year, and I just asked her like, "Oh, is this what you want to do? Like, did you make these decisions?" And then she realized, "Oh, I've actually never made a decision. My mom's made the decision. My boyfriend's chose what I should do, everything." She was like, "I don't think I've actually chosen anything that I wanted in 10 years. So I actually don't think that I want this, you know?" And it was like she was she was about to register for a whole like 4-year program in
Oh,
college. And
wow.
I'm like, "Do you want this?" You know, and so like we can just, and I think we get better at our questions. We can ask something and it just is like,
Hmm.
"Oh my God, I didn't realize that."
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Cleese. Luke.
So I have a client. She actually came to group last night. I've been working with this young lady for a couple years now. And she had told me one time that my story is what had changed her thinking. And I, talked about giving the younger self a hug and inner child visualization work and what have you. But
Hmm.
just that, the simplicity of it, kind of like what Khaleesi says, or said, excuse me, is just sharing a story. And then that person having that realization, that resonates with me, right? And that changed the trajectory of thinking. Now, looking at it from the view of the where that sent that person, I did have responsibility in that. My story planted the seed. Now, I am not responsible for her actions of not continuing to utilize that or do the work for herself. However, I am responsible for planting that seed in the first place.
Okay. Tyrell, I'll put you on the spot a little bit. We've been go back doing this RCA stuff a long, long time. When you read or look at that slogan that we chose to put in the front of the book, transformed people, transform people, how would you summarize it? What does that mean to you?
So hopefully this mic is working better. I switched mics.
It does. It sounds great.
Okay, awesome. So when I read that, how I believe I transform individuals, how I internalize that is to being present and holding space. Literally, I am going through a transformation right now, and a very well-meaning person told me that I was going to look back at this experience, and this experience, in his words, is going to bless others. I'm going through what I'm going through in order to bless others, and very well-meaning. I
Hmm.
wasn't in the space to hear that at that moment
Yep.
because I'm not trying to go through what I'm going through to help others right now. I'm trying to go through to get through so that I can be a better person. And
Yep.
if that supports others, great. But I don't think that's why I'm going through it. So for
Hmm.
me, as this is transforming me, it's helping me to be present. I don't need to use this story to motivate, inspire anybody, but having had my own lived experience for me tells me to show up and be present for the person. I don't
Yeah.
know what that's going to look like. I don't know what that's going to mean because I don't know who I'm going to meet. So maybe my story will, maybe something else will. But me being transformed to this helps me to be present to others as they're going through their transformation. And I'm open to whatever possibilities and whatever ways that may look.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with that. I think I would summarize it in the same that the transformed person is the coach, transformed people. Transform people that want to be transformed, which is the recovery. So Khalees hit it on the nail on the head too, is that we have to be transformed in some way, and we have to be willing to share that with people to allow them to see it. And sometimes it's just an intangible interaction that Tyrell talked about, presence, that they understand that we've been there, we know it, And it is fairly simple. I can sit with somebody and know I want what they have. I know that they have a quality I admire. They have something that I wished I was better at. And might be they might be spiritual, they might be kind, which I'm not very kind. I'm still working on. So I see somebody that's really kind and I go, wow, I wish I was like that. You know, those types of interactions. So the next time you're training a Recovery Coach Academy, you see a Recovery Coach Academy, and you see that slogan, transform people, think about what that means for your own transformation, and am I willing to let that shine or to let that be present? Oh man, we had a great conversation. The 90 minutes flew by. I want to thank you all. Michael, do we have a date and time for the next one, or you'll send out a message?
I'll be sending out a message for the February one soon.
Okay, and make sure that is there a way for people to get on the email list, or what's the best way for people to do that?
So if you want to get on the email list, you could send me or Travis like your information, but this is free to watch for anybody, right? If you're looking for CEs, then you will have to purchase the webinar just to get the CEs. But anybody can attend. But if you want to get into the list, just send me your information and I'll be happy to add you to that list.
Can on the website, can people go and just watch it without getting the CEC? Yeah, okay.
It's free to watch. Yep. It was an awesome conversation.
That link I just put in is for my book Continue, if anybody hasn't read it, about my trip on the Appalachian Trail. And besides that, thank you guys. Hope you have a wonderful, happy 2026. We'll see you next month.